on the YouTubes, on the internets. So there's a link to it on Canvas. So if you want to take a look at the video, you can. You don't have to. Which anybody have a vote for what the hardest problem on here was? The first one?
I say 2A.
2A. So we got 1A and 2A. 2B or not?
3C.
3C. Oh, there's somebody. All right. Oh, yeah, math guy. That's some literature. All right. So we get. I think if I let everybody answer, basically we'd end up with everything. 1A, the harder way to do it is to FOIL that out. So I would highly recommend you don't. Right. So real quick, anybody remember how to? Well, they're both the same side. All right. If I had a problem like that, x squared equals 9. Does anyone know how to get the answers? Notice it's plural. Yes.
Square root.
Sure. Square root. So if I put this, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. Why? Anybody know? What do you square to get 9? 3. What else do you square to get 9? Negative 3. So you got to put a plus or minus. Yeah. Plus or minus. Okay with me? Real quick. Just to bore the hell out of you more. I could subtract 9 over, right? Then I could factor this. Good old difference of squares. Anybody remember that business? Do you see how you get 3 and negative 3? You get 2 answers there. This is a shortcut, so you have to remember to put the plus or minus. Whenever we take a square root, you got to put plus or minus. Why? Because, duh, what do you square to get 9? 2 things. So that's why you got to do it. If you can take a shortcut, you got to remember that they got to be there. So here, the very first thing I can do, though, I don't want to square root first. That would so desperately suck. Because I want to be able to square root the square directly. What's in my way? What else is over there besides the squared piece?
The
freaking plus 2. So how do you get rid of that? Minus 2. Minus 2 minus 2. So you get 3 minus 2x squared equals 4. By the way, this is how I write. Sorry, it's too bad. What do I do to both sides now? See how that square is in my way? You wish that square wasn't there, right? The great thing about solving equations is almost always you say to yourself, I wish that wasn't there. Well, then make it go away. I don't want the square there. How do I make it go away? Square root. Now I don't have to FOIL shit. What do I have to put here? Plus or minus. So I get 3 minus 2x, because they cancel, right? The square root and the square cancels. Everybody with me? A little bit? Okay. And what do I get on this side? 2. I love it, right? The square root of 4 is 2. Let me stop for a minute. By the way, real quick, I did find another room. I think we'll be in 126, but I will verify. I gotta make it official because it just looks like they never did fix this AC. There's no way in hell I'm gonna go through this. So, okay. This basically means I have 2 problems to solve. 3 minus 2x equals 2, or 3 minus 2x equals negative 2. So I can just set them up separately. Then I just solve it. Subtract 3. Is everybody with me? I'm going to do it a little bit quickly, but right? Subtract 3, divide by negative 2. The negatives cancel, so I get 1/2. Subtract 3, so I get negative 5. Divide by negative 2, so the negatives cancel, I get 5x. Somebody's shaking their head, yes, I like it. Most people are looking like, what the hell just happened? But, okay, that might not be what you've got. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Is what's more important. Do you understand the mistake you made? That's what's even more important, right? Okay. It's good to make mistakes because then you can never make them again once you understand why they're a mistake. Do you see how this is almost the same problem, except instead of squaring, now I am square rooting. So what do I want to do eventually? The first problem I wanted to square root to kill the square. Now what do I want to do eventually? How do you kill a square root? Square. So I'm going to do the same damn thing. So I want you to realize 3 minus 2x in A and B, isn't 3 minus 2x stuck somewhere? Isn't it stuck inside of a square in part A? That's why we eventually square root it, to free it. Isn't it stuck inside of a square root in part B? That's why I'm going to square eventually and free it. Yes? My variable expression is stuck. So I want to unstick it. How do I unstick stuff in math? Do the inverse. What's the inverse of the square root? Square. I don't want to do it right now. If I did it right now, that would so suck. If I squared both sides right now, I would have to FOIL this side. Do you want to do that? No. So my joke whenever I teach this is you want to do like a tyrant. What does a tyrant do when they're in their country? They isolate the radical element and then they kill it, right? It's not a life lesson. Don't go out there and do that, right? So I'm going to isolate the radical first. So I don't want to square it right now. That would suck. So I'm going to subtract 2 first. Isolate the square root. Now what can I do to both sides? Square. Does everybody see if I squared it from the beginning, that is something plus something. I'd have to write it twice and FOIL it. I'd have all these radicals. No, I want to kill the radical. I don't want to make more of them. So get the radical by itself, then square. Now these kill each other. For the equal sign. Subtract 3, that would be 13 divided by -2, -13 over 2. In the interest of time, I'm just going to keep on, but you really need to check this. You really need to plug it in. In fact, should I? What is, okay, so, is everybody decent with what we've done here? I skipped a few steps at the end, but that's just the subtract 3 divided by -2. Yes? Then I have to plug it in to check it. What's twice this? Wouldn't I just kill the 2? Yes? If I plug this in, when I double it, so the 2's gone, I would minus it, so the negative's gone, so I get 3 plus 13 is 16. Square root of 16 is 4. Check. Okay, so that does work. So it's an answer. If it didn't work, there would be no solution. I love it. I love it. I'm going a little fast. Sorry. 2a is another person said that this was a hard one. What the hell does a fractional power mean? What's a square root do to something? Let me start there. What's the square root of 16?
4.
Why?
4 times 4 equals 16.
Because if you cut 16 in half, multiplicatively, you with me? I really want this to make sense. If I cut 16 in half additively, I get 8. Is that cool? Cut 16 in half additively, 8 plus 8. Cut 16 in half multiplicatively, I get 4. 4 times 4. You with me? So a square root cuts things in half multiplicatively. What's an exponent mean? What's 7 cubed? How would you, if I made you do it by hand, what would you do to do 7 cubed? What's the 3 mean? 7 to the 3rd power. How would you do it?
7
Times. Exponents, multiplication. So we just said that the square root of something is like cutting that thing in half multiplicatively. And exponents are based on multiplication. So the square root symbol could have been just a fractional power instead. These are both equivalent. Is that familiar to anybody? Is that familiar? You guys remember that? If not, does it make sense? In fact, personally, I wish we had never created the stupid square root symbol, the radical. It doesn't need to exist. 1/2 power is a square root. I'm not saying I'm not going to use them. I obviously am. But I just wish it was never invented. Too bad for me. So, more generally, if this was the square root of 16 to the 3rd power, this would be 16 to the 3/2. Bottom, what's on the bottom of most plants? What's on the bottom of most plants? Roots. So the root's on the bottom. Power's on the top. All right, so what is this the root? Oh, what is this the root of? What root of what? What's on the bottom? 3. That's the root. So it's the cube root of 64 to the 2nd power. Done. Not done, but now I can do it. Anybody know what the cube root of 64 is? Good. Square root is 8. Cube root is 4. 4 times 4 times 4 is 64. So cube root of 64 is 4. What's 4 squared? 16. Real quick. What time is it? Shit. I really want you guys to see this. 64 to the 2/3 is 2/3 of 64 multiplicatively. Isn't 64 4 times 4 times 4? Yes? If I take 2/3 of those, what do I get? Freaking 16. Shit. Maybe? I love you guys. Some of you guys are looking at me like, makes sense now. Okay. 64 is 4 times 4 times 4. This tells me to take 2/3 of it. 2/3 of it would be 16. That's the answer we got. That's a nice little shortcut. But you don't have to do that. You understand? You never have to do a shortcut. There's the nice way. This isn't even that long. Who cares? Okay. I kind of drew over this part B, so let me go to a different one. I heard somebody talking about that. What kind of problem is this fundamentally? This problem here? I mean, this exists everywhere, but what is this very much, obviously? This is a PEMDAS problem. What's PEMDAS? Parentheses, right? Please excuse my dumbass son, that's right. Or please excuse my algebra class came over this a while back. Please excuse my deficient algebra skills, right? So whatever keeps in your brain. Now, real quick, does that mean that multiplication comes before division? No. This is the wrong way to write PEMDAS. That's the wrong way. It could have been this. How do you say, can anybody please say that word for me? Yeah, PEMDAS. You sound like you've been drinking. Sorry, Ossifer. So, it could have been either one because it's parentheses first, exponents next, either one of these, and then either one of these. These are on the same level. You do not multiply before you divide. You do whichever one comes first in a row. You do them as they come. You with me? So how did I do this problem? The very first thing, parentheses. What's inside the parentheses? What's 10 minus 13? Negative 3. What's the next thing to do? Exponents, I love it. Real quick, what's the only number that is dividing this problem? What's the only number we're dividing by? Do you see if you make it 6 times 4, you're suddenly divided by 24? It's not fair. That 4 is not on the bottom, only the 6 is on the bottom. You do not make that 24. That's the people, and unfortunately there are teachers that have taught multiplication comes before division, and they need to quit. They need to stop, they need to get a different job, right? The 6 is the only thing that would be on the bottom, yes? So how the hell would it become 24 on the bottom? There's no way, it's magic, that's bullshit, right? Maybe. So you don't make it 24. It can't be 24, the 6 is on the bottom. Next thing I do is exponents. 12 minus 4 times, what's negative 3 squared?
9.
Yes. Next thing I do, this whole row is nothing but multiplication division. The thing I do last is obviously subtract because it's at the ass end of PEMDAS, right? Sorry, I got a lot of these little things. And, you know, it's very funny about what you go on. So as I just do it as it comes. What's 4 times 9? Divided by 6. 6 times 4. Now it's 24. Because it went through the whole thing. Do the multiplication division as it comes. And what's 12 minus 24? Negative 12. Kick ass. What's the time we got? Okay. Let's do one more, and then I think next time we'll focus on factoring. I just want to let us out like the smallest bit early. Who thinks they got this problem's thing settled down? Who thinks they got that sucker? Yes?
So I got like halfway through. And
Okay.
Like
Halfway, I got you. What's a negative power mean? I'm sorry, I immediately was like, what's a negative power mean? Anybody know what a 0 power means? Let's start there. You're like, we don't know.
always gonna be 1.
Watch this, watch this. What is x to the 7th divided by x squared? What do you do in that case? Subtract. So what is it? X to the 5th. And it makes sense. Up top there's 7 x's, yes? Multiply. Then I divide 2 of them away. So of course I've got 5 left. You with me? Okay. So what would I put up top so the answer was x to the 0? X squared, right? 2 minus 2 is 0, yes? What's x squared divided by itself? What's x squared divided by itself? What's anything divided by itself? 1. So x to the 0 is 1. You with me? In fact, if I have an x sitting there, what's in front of it? A 1. What if I didn't have any x's? What's the only thing that would be there? 1. So no x's means you just have the 1. Yes? Maybe? Okay. So what the shit is a negative exponent mean? Okay, well what would I put at the bottom so the answer is x to the negative 1? Third, yes, right? 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Okay, but what is 2x's divided by 3x's? How many x's cancel?
2.
How many are left? Where? On the bottom. So what's a negative power mean? Flip. Negative power just means flip. I love that. If I add debt to you, have you gone up or down? Down, right? So multiplying by something with a negative power is actually dividing by the thing. You're actually losing it. So one way to do this problem, the way that I highly recommend you do it, first off, you do the easy part. How do you do 6 over 15? Yeah, you divide both by 3, you get 2 over 5. And then I highly recommend that you find all your negative powers and you flip them, because that's what it means. So those 12x's come down here, and there were 3x's down there already. Those 8y's go up top, and there were 3y's up there already. These z's just sort of change places, yes? The 5z's go down, the 4z's go up, and then you get 2 over 5. Is that a y? Yes, okay. I get y cubed y, I love my running. Y to the 11th, is that cool? 3 plus 8. X to the 15th, and then how many z's cancel? 4, how many are left? Where? Done. Okay. All right, that's plenty for today. I think at least one person needs to see me. Or no, that's right. They were in the wrong classroom. If anybody else needs to see me for any reason coming up, otherwise I will see you tomorrow. We are probably going to move to room 126, but come here first. I have to really make sure that it's open. It has a working AC, which is nice. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. This video will be up probably in the next few hours.